stress and pressure triggers mania in people that have bipolar. And my guess would be that he's under a lot of pressure, under a lot of stress. Things aren't going the way he wants. He's not happy. He's super distressed. And so he goes onto X and just lashes out in a hyper-aggressive way at the world and says some of the most horrific that I have seen. Well, we are back talking about Kanye West again, sooner than I had anticipated, but he has had a wild weekend, and I think one that we all wish he could have avoided. There's a lot to talk about. If you're new here, my name is DavidColarossiPhD. I'm a licensed psychologist, and on this channel, I use events in pop culture like Kanye West unleashing on X as an opportunity to talk about underlying psychological concepts and issues. And tonight, I want to talk about three main topics. One, what his diagnosis really is. He's going back and forth with the media, what I think has triggered him, and how I think we as a society should handle it. And the answer is not just to ignore him. Now, before we get into it, please hit the like button, if you like the video, and subscribe, hit the notification bell, all those kinds of things. Very helpful for the YouTube algorithm. Get these kinds of videos discovered. Okay, let's get into it. First of all, I cannot diagnose from afar. I've never interacted with him, so for me to tell you this is exactly what he has would be super irresponsible. But what I can do is sort of describe the symptoms that we see and tell you how a psychologist might diagnose somebody like this. In the past, Kanye West has been very clear about discussing his bipolar diagnosis.
You avoided this album title.
Yeah, no, I don't.
I mean what it says right here on the
I hate
title.
being bipolar. It's awesome.
I think it's important for us to have conversations about, open conversations about mental health. At least I'm happy that I know, even for this interview, I knew I wanted to stay in a calm state because by the time I got to TMZ, I was ramped up. So what was awesome is that the world got to really experience someone in a ramped up state.
The way he describes his symptoms, the soaring mood, the lack of sleep, the racing thoughts, the pressured speech, all of that fits the diagnostic criteria for bipolar 1. If you track him over the course of his career, there's been multiple times where he has come out and he has seemed totally unhinged, unable to check his behavior. That diagnosis made sense. In fact, I have done, and I'll link here, I've done past videos on Kanye West and the bipolar diagnosis. Then recently he came out and said that diagnosis was wrong because my wife, Bianca, has seen people that have bipolar, and she said, I don't have that. And so I got reassessed, and now I have autism. So first of all, these two things are not mutually exclusive. One is a mood disorder, bipolar is a mood disorder, and autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. You can have both. But then the question is, we know he has, in my opinion, someone like Kanye is displaying all of the characteristics of mania. It fits very well. I'm struggling to identify the behaviors, at least that he's showing to the world, that meet any of the diagnostic criteria for autism. He's saying he becomes, dug into his ideas or he gets dug into his perspective. But what he's really describing is being oppositional.
And come to find out, it's really a case of autism that I have. And autism takes you to a Rain Man thing where you're like, oh man, I'm gonna wear this Trump hat because I just like Trump in general. And then when people tell you to not do it, you just get on that one point. And that's my problem when fans tell me to do my album a certain way. I'll do it the opposite way.
He creates conflict. He's provocative, which is not part of autism. Someone who is autistic may not shift off their views or their perspectives if they think their views and perspectives are right, because they're less aware of or connected to the emotional experiences of others. But they're not dicks. So I really don't think there is evidence, at least that we see, that autism fits. There is a tremendous amount of evidence that would suggest he meets the diagnostic criteria for bipolar. And in past videos, I have been really reluctant to say that he was a narcissist because I thought that many of his behaviors sort of were better explained by bipolar. this week has changed that perspective for me. You know, I try to be really careful about throwing out the narcissist label, because I think that anybody who is selfish, we all go, oh, you're just a narcissist. But to have narcissistic personality disorder, you have to have a pervasive pattern of behavior that shows that you really have no concept that there are other people in the world around you. So people that are narcissists often have a delusional sense of who they are. They believe that they are bigger and greater and more important than anybody else in the world. They have a wild sense of their own personal agency. They think that they are special. They think that they are brilliant. They lack empathy and compassion. They struggle to recognize the impact that they're having on other people. They have a major sense of entitlement, and they have a very strong need for admiration and praise. And this need for praise, this need to be brilliant and the best, leads them to be interpersonally exploitative. They take advantage of other people, and they assume that everybody wants to be just like them. They assume that everybody else is jealous of them. And so they come across in an exceptionally arrogant and selfish manner. Now, when you think about that list, are there any of them that you don't observe in Kanye West? At least what he has presented to the media, or what the media has presented to us, it feels like a very good fit. So if I were asked to diagnose someone who presents the way that Kanye West has in the media, I would say he meets the diagnostic criteria for bipolar 1 and narcissistic personality disorder. I don't think he meets the criteria for autism. Even though it's very in vogue, and I'm sure he likes the way that sounds, I don't think he meets the diagnostic criteria. Which brings me to point 2. What do I think is happening here? I think there's 2 issues. The first is the bipolar diagnosis. He doesn't think the diagnosis is right, so I doubt he's on medication. I doubt he's in therapy for it. And I would bet you that he likes the manic phases. I bet you he thinks that in those manic phases, he's at his most creative, and there's no chance he's going to allow himself to be medicated and have those creative moments stolen from him. So you have a man that doesn't have the behavioral skills to control the mood disorder, and he's not using medication to support him. So he's a little bit of a time bomb for mania. And then you have the narcissism, which is created by deep insecurity. What creates narcissism? Usually a horrific background, some kind of horrible experience in your childhood that leads to deep insecurity. And it's really difficult to go through life with that deep insecurity. So what you do is you create these protective layers. So if I feel really bad about who I am, one way I can protect myself is to tell the world, I am better than all of you. I am more important than all of you. I have special gifts, special powers. You are all jealous of me. I don't care about you, right? You can elevate yourself up, but really at your core, you're deeply insecure. So think about what he went through this last week. He went to the red carpet, brought out his wife, Bianca, made her walk out there full nude, and just got thrashed by the media. Just thrashed by everybody. I think that he's having a narcissistic injury. I think that as a society, our reaction to his stunt on the red carpet, his treatment of his wife, I think has shaken Kanye to his core. And stress and pressure triggers mania in people that have bipolar. And my guess would be that he's under a lot of pressure, under a lot of stress. Things aren't going the way he wants. He's not happy. He's super distressed. And so he goes onto X and just lashes out in a hyper-aggressive way at the world and says some of the most horrific shit I have seen anybody say ever. Which brings me to point number 3. What do we do about it? I will tell you, part of me wants to punish him by saying, you act like that, you treat your wife that way, let's turn the cameras off, let's stop talking about him, let's ignore him, let him ride off into the sunset, and that will be punishment enough for someone who is as narcissistic as he is. He would deserve that, but I don't think it's what's best for him. What's best for him is to get support. He needs somebody in his sphere to care more about him than they do his money, than they do about this wild ride they're on. You know, if you were to replace bipolar with almost any other mental illness and you saw it as unchecked as Kanye's is right now, you would immediately want to grab that person and get them support. He should be into therapy yesterday. He should be getting medication yesterday. He should be in a clinic right now. But instead with Kanye, all we do is we go, we just watch him and we record him and we talk about him like he's a zoo animal, but nobody around him cares enough to take the phone away from him and get him treatment. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below.